The bow is one of the 3 ranged weapons offered to hunters and is most commonly considered to be the easiest way to learn the gunner playstyle. Unlike the bowguns, each bow comes with an infinite amount of arrows, so ammo will never be an issue. Only the special coatings that are applied to the arrows are finite. Time to chug those dash juices and drench those arrows in power coatings as we nimbly fire and roll our way through the generations, starting with Monster Hunter 2 Dose up to the newest Sunbreak expansion. The bow is a very fast weapon while out on the field. Its walking speed is about as fast as the sword and shield. Before Generation 5, Gunner and Blade Master armor sets were separate and required making 2 separate armor sets if you were going to use both ranged and melee weapons in the same file. While having some minor detail changes between the Gunner and Blade Master sets, Gunner gear is usually lacking in defense while having higher elemental resistances. Keep in mind that hit zones can be different for Gunners as compared to Blade Masters. So before going on a hunt, refer to resources like Kiryanko or a wiki for hit zones. Pressing up on the analog stick will do a quick swipe using one of the arrows for some melee damage. Moving up again will do a follow-up slash. This attack does do cutting damage and shares a similar quirk as the lance. Moving the analog stick down will ready an arrow and shoot it. Holding it down will charge up the attack instead. During the charge, the hunter's stamina will quickly deplete until the analog stick is let go, or the hunter runs out of stamina. While charging, the hunter can roll or hop by pressing X to cancel the charge. If the hunter brought along some compatible coatings, they will show up just above the hunter's item bar in the bottom right. Pressing R3 will apply the coating, and simply firing the arrow will use them up one by one. If you wish to change the coating or remove it, you can do this by holding L2 and pressing triangle or X to cycle through the other coatings the hunter may have brought along, that are of course compatible. Having the bow unsheathed and pressing X will have the hunter hop back a short distance backwards, while moving the hop turns into a roll. Pressing and holding R1 will move the camera over the hunter's shoulder. Moving the D-pad will then move the reticle for more accurate firing. While holding R1, you can still move around using the left analog stick. Bows in 2 Dose will fire 3 different arrow types. The types of arrows that can be fired will be shown in the weapon's details. This will also note what types of coatings are compatible. Rapid type arrows fire in a single straight line in front of the hunter. They are affected by gravity and will arc towards the ground. When charged, they will gain extra shots that accompany the initial one. These extra shots are further impacted by gravity more severely than the initial main one. Scatter type arrows will fire in a cone instead of a straight line. Depending on the charge level, more arrows will be included in this cone. Pierce type arrows will fire a single arrow that hits multiple times as it travels in a straight line. Depending on the charge level, this arrow can hit between 3 to 6 times while passing through the monster. Diving a bit deeper with charge levels, the higher the charge level, the more of a damage and elemental multiplier the arrow type will get. A level 1 charge will get a 0.4 multiplier to raw and 0.5 multiplier to elemental damage, while a level 4 charge will get a 1.5 multiplier to raw and a 1.125 multiplier to elemental damage. While the bow technically has infinite ammo since all the hunter needs to fire is stamina, the bow's arrows can be further buffed using these finite coatings. These coatings can be crafted or pre-purchased before heading out on a hunt. Power coatings increase raw damage by 150%. Status element coatings will either have the arrows inflict poison, paralyze a monster, or put it to sleep. If the bow has an element, applying these coatings will temporarily overwrite the element value of the bow. The amount of status per shot is dependent on the arrow type and the level, not charge level. Critical range is the extra bonus that gunner weapons get for being within a good range when attacking. Being too close or too far will not get a bonus, or even worse, give a negative multiplier. All arrow types gain an extra 150% bonus from being in critical range. This starts at 8 frames after the shot is fired, but the distance at which critical range varies between arrow types. Pierce is a long-range arrow type that loses its critical range at 13 frames. Rapid arrows are a medium-range shot and they lose their critical range at 10 frames. Scatter type arrows are a short-range shot that lose their critical range at about 9 frames. It's pretty difficult to count frames while hunting, but a good ruler is the hunter's rolls. Scatter shots are good within a single roll, rapid is good between 1 to 2, and pierce is still within critical range if fired between 3 and 4 rolls. Coding requires empty bottles for the crafting recipe. While you could buy bottles for cheap before the hunt, coatings are quite limited, so bringing extra bottles can be pretty useful. Drinking a power juice will temporarily give the hunter unlimited stamina. There is an upgraded version of this called the Mega Juice, and it extends the time for a while longer. Just by having combination books in the hunter's inventory, their combining success rate increases. The main drawback to this is the requirement of giving up precious item slots in the hunter's inventory for these books. Combo books only also work if they are brought along as a series, so having books 1, 2, and 4 will only give the benefits of the first 2 books. While on the hunt, the hunter's stamina will naturally go down. While early hunts will give rations to starve away the stamina reduction, mid and late game hunts will forego giving the hunter items right away. Even early on, sometimes people in multiplayer will take extra items for themselves, so having stakes can be a huge help. Ammo Maker always makes the maximum amount of ammo when combining. This can be an extremely useful item saving technique that can also give you extra coatings in the long run. Increasing the combination success rate as an armor skill reduces the amount of combo books the hunter needs to carry while hunting. This can leave some extra room for other items for combining or for healing/utility. Load Up adds a 4th charge level to the bow. This can dramatically buff a bow's arrow type or even change it to something else entirely depending on the bow. Plus 10 in Marathon Runner provides the hunter with a reduction in the stamina loss when using any stamina draining moves, like running or using the bow. Close range coating increases damage dealt at a close range by 30%. This coating does not affect the bow's element. It does affect the bow melee damage. Without the coating, the melee is similar to green sharpness, but when applied it makes its sharpness similar to white. Paint coatings do not give a power buff to the arrow, instead they act like a paintball and mark the monster. Focus is a good quality of life skill that speeds up charging time. Paired with Load Up, this can make getting to those level 4 charges much faster. While unconfirmed that these type up skills affect the bows in 2 doses, Freedom Unite notes the arrow types in the skill description. Normal and Pierce Up increases damage for rapid/pierce by 10%. Pellet Up increases the damage of scatter type arrows by 30%. Constitution lowers stamina using moves that use up fixed amounts of stamina like rolling. Monster Hunter Tri omitted the bow from their weapon roster, but it made a reappearance in Portable 3rd. Like many other weapons, the bow receives some extra new moves in the 3rd generation. Bows now come with an extra unique feature, the Arc Shot. Depending on the bow, they will either have Focus, Wide, or Blast. While having a level 2 charge, pressing A will fire the Arc Shot. You can aim the Arc Shot more precisely by pressing and holding R. These arc shots deal a good amount of exhaust and KO damage. If aimed properly, this move can knock out monsters with some ease. Focus Shot fires a bundle of arrows that will concentrate on a single spot. The arrows will rapidly fire on the target, hitting up to 6 times. Be aware that when used in multiplayer, the arc shot can flinch other hunters or empty their stamina bar if they are blocking. Wide arc shot is fairly similar to Focus, it just has a much wider range. These arrows have the same strength as Focus and can hit the same amount of times. The arrows seem to fall down at random, but like the pellet shot from a bowgun, the arrows will hone in on a weak spot of the monster, like the head. This type of arc shot cannot be used for knocking out monsters, and they carry the same disadvantage to other hunters in multiplayer. Instead of exploding into a rain of arrows, the blast arc type will penetrate through the monster, hitting once on impact and then exploding on the ground for more damage. These are the worst type of arc shot to use in multiplayer, as instead of moderately stumbling your fellow hunters, this will send them flying. With the introduction of monster exhaustion, the bow now has an exhaust coating. Coatings also affect arc shots, so this will apply an extra bit of KO when fired. Portable 3rd added the armor skill to add a coating to a bow. Very useful for bows that may have a high raw attack but no power coding for example. You can either add poison, paralysis, sleep, power, close range, and exhaust to any bow using their respected armor skill. Underwater, the bow's arrows will drop more drastically than on land. Just like with the bowguns, the bow's critical distance is essentially halved. Later renamed to blast coating, slime coating does a fixed amount of damage when the slime explodes on a monster. The explosion's damage scales with Bombardier and Feline Pro. This coating acts as a status element and temporarily overrides the bow's element when applied. 3 ultimate added bonuses for coating types, and these are listed in the weapon's description. These are just little extras when using certain coatings with certain bows. The 4th generation changed the visual indicator regarding critical distance. If an arrow hits when in critical distance, the screen will shake. If the bow is compatible with Power Shot, after shooting an arrow, pressing A will fire a Power Shot. This special shot has a higher level than the previously fired arrow, so if you were to fire a level 2 shot, the Power Shot will follow it up with a level 3 shot. This cannot be used to fire shots that the bow does not have, so firing a level 3 charge without load up will just follow it up with another level 3 shot. While useful, the Power Shot can very easily use up a lot of stamina if not used carefully. Jumping off a ledge and pressing X plus A or X will do a quick melee swipe as a mounting strike. In Gen/GenU, it is also possible to fire an arrow after jumping off a ledge. This shot will knock the hunter back a small bit, so if timed correctly, you can use this to spam a lot of level 2 shots in quick succession. Power coatings were separated into level 1 and level 2 power coatings. Level 1 coatings give a 35% boost in damage, with level 2 acting like regular power coatings with a 50% boost. The heavy arrow type is a short-range shot that has the arrow fire in a straight line that arcs extremely heavily. This has a critical range of spread, and the Power Shot has a natural part breaker. This arrow type is unique to Gen/GenU. Pressing B again after a hop and holding X will go straight into a level 3 charge. This is a useful repositioning move that quickly leads into the level 3 charge. Striker style moves the Power Shot, but the bow is largely unchanged besides that. Aerial style takes away the power and arc shot for a mounting shot after a hop. Pressing A after a hop will do a level 2 shot downwards at the target. X plus A will do a mounting strike, and X after a shot will just fire another arrow. GenU changes the aerial attack to have up to 3 shots after a hop. Adept style removes the back dive and the arc shot, but with an Adept evade, the bow will go straight into a level 3 charge when pressing X. This hunting style is pretty popular as it provides the bow with a very strong and evasive playstyle. Alchemy style removes the Power Shot, and the back hop charge starts at level 1 instead of 3. Reload speed with Alchemy style is upped a single level, so having reload speed plus 1 will auto-apply any coatings. The Alchemy barrel has a special coating that increases the hunter art gauge when used. Valor style when not in Valor mode has the bow act like it did in Freedom Unite. Holding Y and then pressing X will do a special charge that has 2 levels, 3 levels when in Valor mode. Shooting the level 2 charge fills up the Valor gauge a good amount. While in Valor mode, the bow gets an extra power shot, and while standing still, the hunter gets pseudo focus. Firing 3 big volleys of arrows, each volley does more damage than the last, with the third one dealing the most amount of damage. You do get a little bit of leeway with the third shot if you hold down R and aim. Each tier makes the third volley stronger, but it takes longer to charge up. Just like the heavy bowgun's blazing hunter art, this fires a special coating into the air just above the hunter. This speeds up the hunter's movement speed and gives him focus for a limited amount of time. Binding 2 arrows together, the bow gets to fire a makeshift blade for a short amount of time. This changes the arrow to do cutting damage, and it is fairly strong, after the buff in GenU, that is. This hunter art removes any coatings applied. This shot is also not that multiplayer friendly. Jetting away in a similar style as Absolute Evasion, the hunter shoots behind him during the dash. If you hold X during the dash, the hunter will instead hold on to a level 3 charge. This special shot does not have critical distance, and the level 3 hunter art has an extra 30% affinity for this attack. All bows in Monster Hunter World have the same shot and arc types. Close range coatings were made infinite, and power coatings were no longer separated into 2 levels. Each bow still has their own unique set of compatible coatings. The backup charge was removed. Dash juices no longer give infinite stamina, and now reduce stamina consumption for a limited amount of time. Constitution was changed to reduce fixed stamina depletion by a maximum 50%, and hunters now receive a 100% success rate when crafting ammunition. The indicator for critical range was made much more beginner-friendly in World. With the weapon out and holding L2, you get an over-the-shoulder view with a reticle in front of the hunter. If you are too far away from the target, the reticle would just show out of range. This means that the arrows will either do very little damage or not even reach the target. A yellow circle with 2 lines on each side means that you are in hitting distance. Just a little closer and you'll see another circle within the circle. This means you are in fire range and within critical distance. By tapping the fire button, each consecutive shot will be fired at a higher level. This allows for a lot of damage potential in a shorter amount of time compared to just charging each attack. The main drawback to this is the higher amount of coating that this will use. And while this is good for damage, this is not really a great method for status coatings. Arc shots are no longer affected by coatings, nor do they use one up when firing an arc shot. These also do not need a level 2 charge to fire anymore, but the damage is impacted by charge level. You can aim the arc shot better by pressing L2 plus R2 while holding circle. Moving the right analog stick would then change where the arc shot is currently aimed at. Pressing circle will fire out 3 arrows in a cone in front of the hunter. Pressing circle again will do a power shot, with a third input firing an arc shot. Pressing circle after a regular shot still does the power shot. Pressing triangle plus circle will have the hunter scrape the arrow on the ground and ready a powerful shot, known as a Dragon Piercer. It takes a while to charge up the attack, but the arrow will hit multiple times as it travels through the monster. This attack is affected by the bow's charge level and uses up coatings. While charging, pressing X and moving will have the hunter slide in the analog stick's direction. This will move the charge level up a stage with each slide. After a sidestep, pressing triangle will have the hunter jump and stab using an arrow. This can be used to mount a monster and can be chained. Sidestepping towards a runnable wall will have the hunter kick off the side of the wall and fire behind him. When sliding or hopping off a ledge, you can shoot or charge a shot. Stamina Surge speeds up stamina recovery. At level 3, it speeds up recovery by 30%. Special Ammo Boost increases the damage done by the bow's Dragon Piercer. Its damage is increased by 10% at level 1 and 20% at level 2. The combination skill Mind's Eye / Ballistics extends the critical range for bows. While it does not extend the maximum range for critical range, it increases the short range critical distance. Latching onto a monster with the clutch claw and pressing triangle will do a 3-hit swipe with the arrow that drops slinger ammo. The hunter then does a backflip, where you can fire an arrow that will be fully charged. After firing a shot with the slinger, the bow can do a charging sidestep. With the slinger loaded, hold L2 and press R3. This will ready the slinger, and pressing triangle plus circle will do the 1000 Dragons attack. This fires all the slinger ammo the hunter has in a short range cone. Firing 1000 Dragons without slinger ammo does a much weaker version of this move. This move does not get stronger with charge levels, but it also will use up a coating. This can be made stronger using the special Ammo Boost skill. Rise reverted what World had done to the bow in terms of arrow types. Each bow now has their own arrow type and arc shot type again, as they did in Old World. Exhaust coating now notes that it adds an extra plus 10 attack when applied. The power volley is performed by pressing A after a power shot. These 2 shots are special in which they carry on a max charge, so this can be used to fire 3 consecutive max level shots. When pressing the fire button and A, the hunter will do the arc shot. In Rise, there are now 3 different types of arc shots that provide different buffs that rain down and are applied when going through it. Recovery heals a hunter as they stand in it. Affinity boosts critical hit chance. And Brace temporarily gives the hunter level 1 flinch free. If desired, you can use the Rampage skills to change what type of arc shot a particular bow has. Pressing R plus A will do the Herculean draw. This gives a small temporary power boost for the bow for about 30 seconds and uses up 2 wire bugs. Absolute Power Shot sacrifices more stamina than the regular Power Shot for the ability to do KO damage when hitting the monster's head. Dodge Bolt changes the regular sidestep to have a small window to execute a counter. If the hunter is hit during the Dodge Bolt, they will do a melee counter attack. If they hold the charge button, the bow will go straight into a level 2 charge. This move uses less stamina than the regular sidestep, but also greatly reduces the distance the hunter can dash, so it is highly recommended to use evade distance skills to compensate. And note that this only counters the first attack it makes contact with. Focus Shot does a quick backwards retreat that gives a fast recovery buff during the retreat. Using the analog stick, you can use Focus Shot in any direction that is not forward, and as long as you don't move, you still retain the stamina recovery boost. Swapping that out for aerial aim instead flings the hunter up into the air. During this, they will auto-fire a volley of arrows. This could be followed up by 2 more shots. You can aim these better by holding ZL. These shots behave like power shots, which means you can jump into this move with a max charge and follow it up with 3 more max charge attacks. These can also be slightly delayed. You can also finish a combo with a melee attack on the way down. Following the 10.0 update, the bow got buffed to deal more elemental damage with the charge attacks. Status effects were boosted to have better build-up values, but the attack power was decreased on the level 3 and level 4 charge attacks. Focus Shot stamina recovery speed after landing was increased. Swapping out the melee attack for the stake thrust allows the hunter to leave an explosive stake in the monster. This stake follows up with additional damage when hit. The amount of damage depends on the arrow type. This can also be done mid-air and replaces the melee attack when using the aerial aim. Replacing Focus Shot and aerial aim, Butcher Boing fires an arrow with Iron Silk attached to it. The next follow-up shot needs to hit the initial area for an explosion of cutting damage. If the second shot misses, the tether is lost. This can be used to cut tails. Switching out Herculean Draw for bolt boost changes the critical range for a different super critical range. When in super critical range, the reticle changes shape and will do extra damage within the range for a limited amount of time. At level 3 of Heaven Sent, once it activates, it nullifies stamina consumption for a limited amount of time. Berserk changes all vitality to red gauge upon switching to blue scroll. As long as you have red health, the hunter cannot faint, but the hunter can still cart when the red health depletes fully. This has great synergy with Strife, which at level 3 not only massively increases attack, but gives the hunter temporary infinite stamina. This set is pretty difficult to use but can provide tons of damage. On paper, the bow, and by extension all gunner weapons, are extremely simple. All you gotta do is aim and fire at the monster. But like a lot of monster hunter weapons, the bow proves that this weapon is only simple at a glance. The depths of this weapon go down pretty far compared to a lot of weapons. The bow has always been a great introduction to the gunner class, but at the same time, going down a rabbit hole with coatings, arrow types, stamina management, positioning, and different hit zones quickly can be overwhelming for a new player. Doubly so for people who are used to the old world bow, having to relearn their weapon because of their old playstyle being drastically changed with World and Rise. This higher skill ceiling does greatly reward the player with tons of damage, and as an added bonus, is a very flashy weapon when used by skilled players. I myself am not too good at New World bow. I am still learning the weapon slowly, but I can assure you, the situations when the bow clicked were probably the most satisfying moments in Sunbreak. Well, until the next episode.